Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Loki, and today we're going to be taking a look at the hashtag Let Russ Cook debate and why I believe that the Seahawks should let Russ cook. Before we get into the video though, I do just want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my second channel. I know I haven't posted in like 2.5 weeks, but I will start posting. There should be a video today on a pretty funny subject in my opinion, you know, more lighthearted content, and yeah, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed there. Over 100 subscribers, pretty cool. And also last video I asked if I should make Madden 21 videos whenever that game comes out, and I also put a poll in the community tab of my channel, and that poll is currently at 83% of people saying yes out of over 500 votes. So obviously the vast majority, and I saw a lot of comments on the last video saying that I should do Madden content, so I probably will end up doing Madden content. But for anyone who doesn't actually want to see it, don't worry, I'm going to be doing Seahawks consistently like I have been every other day. It's just going to be that day in between where there normally wouldn't be a video, there will be Madden. So if you don't want to see the Madden videos, just don't watch the Madden videos. There will still be the Seahawks content as consistently as usual, so don't worry about that. But anyone who is looking forward to Madden 21 videos, hey, they might just happen. But now to get into the video, the Let Russ Cook debate is basically just saying that the Seahawks offense should be more aggressive and involve Russell Wilson much earlier on in the game. Now obviously me as a Seahawks fan and someone who's watched Seahawks football for the past few years, the Seahawks are definitely a much more run-oriented team than pass-oriented. The stats probably say otherwise, saying that we pass a little bit over 50% of the time, but when it comes to early on in the games, it just seems like the Seahawks really enjoy this whole pattern of run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down when there's no other option, and it doesn't really work too well. You know, we don't really ever do well with that run on first and second down option. There's definitely some plays that are made, but most of the time when you're running on first and second down and you become predictable and the team knows that you're going to be passing on third down, you're not going to make big plays in the pass game. Now, of course, like every other team, the Seahawks like to ease into games, but I think they ease into games much too long, because most teams, they ease into the games the first few possessions, get their feet under them, and then they start going for risky plays. The Seahawks seem to just kind of ease into the game all the way until they get to the fourth quarter, and then there's a problem, and then they have to rely on Russell Wilson to make big plays and try to come back. Last year in 2019, out of 16 total games, the Seattle Seahawks trailed at halftime in 10 of them. They were tied at halftime in 1, and they were winning at halftime in 5. Now personally, being down at halftime in the majority of your games doesn't really seem like a winning formula to me, but the Seahawks did go 11-5 and make the playoffs, but it just really shows that the Seahawks just let off of the gas early on in the game, and then at halftime they put themselves in a bad situation. Now obviously when they're down late in games, who do they look for? Russell Wilson, their star quarterback, the best player on their team, some would argue, and the player that most of the time brings them back in the game. When asked about if he should be involved more earlier on in the game, Russell Wilson said, "Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the reality is early in games, rather than us having to be in the fourth quarter to be able to make some stuff happen, I think we have a crazy stat of 56-0 when we have a lead by halftime. Getting ahead is a key thing. I definitely believe in finishing strong. We won a lot of games in the fourth quarter and do some fun stuff in the fourth quarter at the end of games. Let's treat every quarter as the fourth. I think that's my mentality always." With this, Russell Wilson is definitely saying that he wants to see more urgency from the Seahawks offense when it comes to the earlier parts of the game. He's not calling anyone out. He is just saying that, you know, in the fourth quarter, they definitely go harder to try to get points. They try to make plays, and he wants to see that earlier on in the games. And I think most fans would want to see that as well, because it definitely does seem like the Seahawks like to just ease their way into the second half, into the fourth quarter, and they like to just be in bad situations where they have to make these big plays and go all in on offense to try to put points on the board. And I think that if the Seahawks were to go, you know, somewhat in to try to put points on the board earlier on in the game and take some risks rather than just, you know, easing their way into the first half, I think that the Seahawks would definitely do much better and be in less bad situations at halftime, and that's something that I think Russell Wilson is stating with this, and something that I definitely agree with. Now, when Russell Wilson was deliberately asked about the Let Russ Cook debate, he answered with this: "The reality is I want to win games. That's all I really care about, is going out there and finding ways to win. For me in my career, I've always wanted to be on this progression, constantly growing, consistently getting better from year to year, from game to game. I can say that I've dialed myself into that every single day and committed myself to that every single day. At the end of the day, I want the ball in my hands. I want to be able to make plays and give us a chance to win. That doesn't mean just me chucking it around, but it does mean I feel like when I get the more times I have the ball in my hands, the more things things can happen. I think the defense worries about that too. Now, obviously, Russell Wilson knows he's a great player. He knows he's a great quarterback, and he thinks, like many other Seahawks fans, that the Seahawks do better when he has the ball in his hands. And definitely, I agree with that, but I don't think anyone with the Let Russ Cook hashtag is saying that the Seahawks should go into a 90% pass scheme, but they are saying that Russell Wilson should have the ball in his hands more often than he does now, and the Seahawks should be trying to be more aggressive earlier on in the game than they are now. Now, obviously, like almost every other team in the NFL, the Seahawks pass the ball more often than they run the ball, but it is interesting to me to see that the Seahawks pass rate is the 6th lowest in the NFL, with arguably the 2nd best quarterback. And while having the 6th lowest passing rate as a team, the Seahawks are the 2nd highest in average yards per attempt. Now, this obviously means that the Seahawks do very well when they do pass, but they aren't passing as much as other teams. And that's something that I think a lot of people are, not too happy of, because the average passing rate in the NFL is 59%, and the Seahawks only are at 54% pass rate. So it's definitely showing that the Seahawks pass much less often than average teams, and they have the 2nd best quarterback in the league, if not the best. There's definitely arguments to be made. I would say that Patrick Mahomes is 1, Russell Wilson's number 2, and then Lamar Jackson number 3. But as a thrower, I think that Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes are much better than Lamar Jackson when it comes to just throwing the football. Now, obviously, like I stated before, no one's saying Let Russ Cook is saying that the Seahawks should be passing more than 90% of the time or something like that. But when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, who actually ended up winning the Super Bowl last year, one of the most successful teams over the past few years, they are at 61% pass rate. And obviously, Kansas City Chiefs, best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. But, the Seahawks at 54, that's only a 7% difference, but that's almost 100 attempts more passing that the Chiefs do than the Seahawks. Now, I think that with 100 more attempts, Russell Wilson could have insanely better stats. I think the Seahawks would do much better with Russell Wilson having more attempts, but obviously the Seahawks scheme is much different than the Kansas City Chiefs. But me personally, I think that Russell Wilson, if the Seahawks can kind of change their scheme to make Russell Wilson throw about a 60-40 split between the pass and the rush, then I think that would be much better for the team. Obviously, the Seahawks are much more run-oriented than the average team in the NFL, but I think that if the Seahawks were to go to maybe like a 60-40 split, I think it would be fine for them. I don't think that it would kill them. I mean, it would be something that would be worth trying, in my opinion, because, Russell Wilson's not going to be there forever. You're going to have to use him while he's there, do well with him. And, Chris Carson, I mean, if Marshawn Lynch was still on the team and Russell Wilson was still on the team, I'd be fine with this. But with Chris Carson, he's obviously not at the level that Marshawn Lynch was in his prime with Seattle. And Russell Wilson, he is just in his prime. He is probably the best that he'll be, if not, very close to it. I don't think there's much up for Russell Wilson to go. I think he's going to stay pretty high at this level or a little bit above this level for a long time. But the Seahawks, it just seems like they're wasting the talent of Russell Wilson because they're not giving him enough opportunities. I don't think he's going to win MVP if he's consistently getting less attempts than other MVP candidates, and he's not going to get the stats of other people. Obviously, stats aren't everything. Success is everything when it comes to the NFL, and team success, winning the Super Bowl, that's what everyone strives for. But I think the Seahawks, when it comes down to it, it's just, I think that running the ball has definitely been a thing of the Seahawks culture for probably the last 2 decades. They're very run-oriented teams, and they really like that, run hard, run heavy, run a lot. Just, we are going to dominate you with the run, but it has not worked as well as it used to over the past few years. And I think that the Seahawks should definitely try to go for something more of like a 60-40 split, like the average team in the NFL. Like, I'm not saying that the Seahawks should give up the run. I'm saying that the Seahawks should give Russell Wilson a bit more opportunities, because I think that being the 6th lowest passing rate team with one of the best quarterbacks in the league is just disgusting. It's just not what you want to see. That's like someone having LeBron James, but he only has like a 10% usage rate. Like, you don't want to have such a great player not being used to the fullest extent. You want someone that is going to be great, and you're going to want to put the ball in their hands to make plays. And obviously the Seahawks do that, and Russell Wilson makes plays, but Russell Wilson can definitely make more plays earlier on in the game rather than just easing into the second half and being in a situation where Russell Wilson is forced to make plays. Taking risk earlier on in the game is definitely something that I want to see the Seahawks do. I don't think they're going to be doing it this season. If they do, I'll be very happy. I'd like to see this split come more towards the average of 59-41% pass to rush. So honestly, I think the Seahawks probably will get a little bit closer to the average of a 60-40 split right around, but I don't think they're going to be a pass-heavy team or anything. I think the Seahawks will definitely continue to be the run hard, run often type of team, but I don't think it's going to work as well as it used to, because obviously we don't have Marshawn Lynch anymore. Chris Carson, definitely a great running back in my opinion, but he is no Marshawn Lynch. I don't think that he can be a player that we rely on. I think we have to rely on Russell Wilson more than we rely on Chris Carson. You know, relying on Marshawn Lynch, someone who can break 18 tackles and get to the end zone on a 70-yard run or something, that's okay, because the man can make plays. But when it comes to Chris Carson versus Russell Wilson, I will put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands more than I'll put it in Chris Carson's hands to make the plays. And I think that the Seahawks definitely do that later on in the games, but I like to see them start to do that earlier on in games, because it just sucks watching Seahawks games and just kind of knowing that nothing's really going to happen for most of the games this season when it comes to the first half. It sucks knowing that the Seahawks are going to kind of just let off the gas in the first half, and then when it comes to the second half, they'll be in a bad situation and they'll have to just start throwing like crazy, making big plays and doing whatever they can to score. I would like to see the Seahawks take a bit more risks earlier on in the game. And, you know, I think they're probably going to start doing that now that Russell Wilson has publicly stated in multiple different things, saying that he wants to kind of get the ball more. He wants to be able to make plays earlier on in the game. He wants to take earlier quarters more seriously. I think the Seahawks might try to start transitioning towards a more pass-heavy team. Don't think it's going to happen this year. Might happen next year. Might happen the year after. But I do think that Russell Wilson stating this publicly, although he didn't call anyone out, which is a good thing. Russell Wilson, he's a great guy. He's not going to call anyone out. He's not going to call the coaches out. He's not going to call players out. He's just going to say, hey, I think I'm great. I think that we can definitely do better if we, you know, go more aggressive earlier on in games. I think I can make plays earlier on in games. You know, he's a nice guy. He's not going to say what everyone else is thinking, like, this scheme is not right. We don't have Marshawn Lynch anymore. Chris Carson is not Marshawn Lynch. We need to let Russell Wilson make plays instead of relying on the run. So I think that's something that a lot of people are kind of on the hype train of the Let Russ Cook hashtag. And honestly, I'm also on the hype train. I think that Russell Wilson should definitely get more opportunities than he has in the past few seasons. I think the Seahawks should give him more opportunities to make big plays, take risks earlier on in the games. I think it might lead to his interceptions being higher, but it could lead to every other passing stat being better as well. So I think if the Seahawks let Russ cook like people have been saying, I think Russell Wilson could definitely win the MVP. I think the team would succeed and do much better because of it. And, you know, there's definitely reasons why people are saying, you know, no, don't let Russ cook, because, you know, if we're not running this much, people will just expect the pass and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, obviously, play action is a huge part of how we make big plays, as, you know, the Seahawks offense does, but I don't think we have to run much more than the average team. I think with the second best quarterback in the league being the 6th lowest passing rate in the league is just atrocious. We have to be at least close to average, because Russell Wilson, we're just wasting his talents if we're not letting him throw close to something like Patrick Mahomes, when they definitely have very similar arm talents. But, you know, it's just disappointing seeing Russell Wilson being so underutilized, in my opinion, and I'd love to see the Seahawks give him more opportunities. But let me know down and below in the comments what you think about this. Should the Seahawks let Russ cook? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, leave a like if you enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new, subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be posting a lot more in the next few weeks, and so follow me on Twitch. I'm going to start streaming in September. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.